Yeah, that's what I would have done too. If I had been healed of a terrible affliction and tried to express my gratitude and offered a gift, and then been told, whoa, 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 God's gifts are totally gratuitous. His gifts cannot be bought. After all of that, I think I too would have said, well, all right, but could I have some of your dirt? You were not listening very closely to the first reading, were you? In the worldview of ancient peoples, the dominion of the gods was as vast as the land their people had conquered. Now I know that there is no God in all the earth except in Israel. That's what Naaman said. Give me some of Israel's land so I can worship him. No land, no God. A conquered people meant a conquered God who disappears from history. This was the dominant world view among the Jews too, which took a long and painful time for them to know the uniqueness of their Lord, the one true God. Pope Benedict XVI made these helpful observations. He said that, the 12 tribes of Israel and the possession of the land and David's kingdom and the building of the temple and the giving of the cultic law, with all of that, it appeared that the religion of Israel looked, just like all other religions of the Near East. The God of the fathers, the patriarchs, the God of Sinai, had now become the God of a people, the God of a country, of a particular ordered way of life. But that wasn't all there was to Israel's religion. Its distinctive elements became known precisely when they lost these things in the exile. It's a little bit like what happens when we lose our health. What's most important comes to light. In the normal way of things, a God who loses his land, who leaves his people defeated, and is unable to protect his sanctuary, is a God who has been overthrown. He has no more say in things. He vanishes from history. When Israel went into exile, quite astonishingly, the opposite happened. The stature of this God, the way he was completely different from the other divinities and the religions of the world, was now apparent. And the faith of Israel at last took on its true form and stature. This God, their God, the one true God, he could afford to let others have his land because he was not tied down to a particular country. He could allow his people to be defeated to awaken them from its false religious dream, as though religion is about conquering the world and vast kingdoms. He, the true God, was not dependent on this people, yet he didn't abandon them in their hour of defeat. He was not dependent upon the temple or on the cult celebrated there, as was then commonly supposed. It was supposed the people gave the gods nourishment, and, the gods maintained the world. It was a good deal. No, the true God didn't need this cult, which to some extent kind of concealed his real identity. Thus, together with a more profound concept of God, a new idea of worship developed. Now, certainly since the time of Solomon, the personal God of the fathers, patriarchs, have been identified with the high God, the creator, who was known to all religions. But that God had typically been excluded from worship in the pagan religions as not being responsible for one's individual needs. They had all these individual gods, the God of the garden, the God of the river, the God of the hearth. It's kind of like what we have to provide for all our needs. The God of wealth, so that we have a good life. The God of social media, so that we're entertained. They too had all these various gods. But with the loss of all these things for the Israelites, they began to see that one high God, the creator of all, he was concerned for our individual needs too. That became the driving force the survival of the faith. Israel has no particular God at all, but simply worships the one single God. The God who spoke to Abraham and chose Israel, he is in reality the God of all peoples, Jew and, what did we hear, Samaritan, non-Jew, the universal God who guides the course of all history. The purifying of the idea of worship belongs with this: God needs no sacrifice. He does not have to be nourished by men because everything belongs to him. The true sacrifice is the man who has become worthy of God. You see what happened? As those things were peeled away, kingdom, land, temple, what was most distinctive became in relief. And they could see something of the true identity of God and what true worship looks like. The true sacrifice is the man who has become worthy of God, which of course points us to the only man who is worthy of God, into whom we've been baptized and give only authentic worship as we join our worship to his here by giving thanks. But doesn't it also bring to mind the great image of St. Paul from our second reading? Remember Jesus Christ, he said, raised from the dead, a descendant of King David. Such is my gospel, for which I am suffering, even to the point of chains, like a criminal. But the word of God is not chained. God's care extends everywhere, even into prisons, which is what put Paul in prison in the first place. He is the one true Lord, not Caesar, he said. That was Paul's gospel. Thus far may the government go, and no farther. I belong to God, not Caesar. Caesar isn't the son of God, as he claimed to be. No, Jesus is the only Son of God, as was demonstrated by his resurrection. And he is faithful, we heard St. Paul say, even if we are unfaithful. It's kind of a strange thing, isn't it? What does it mean? It doesn't have so much to do with faith, meaning belief, but loyalty. Think of being on a ship. It's one thing to willingly jump overboard. I don't like his rules, I'm leaving. It's quite another to be swept overboard by powerful political, spiritual, moral winds that exploit our weakness. When we're tempted, we don't want to give in, but what do we find? We've given in once again. Even when, despite our goodwill, we fail to stand in these ways, Jesus is faithful on our behalf. Friends, even when we fail, as long as it's not willingly, we are not beyond his care. There is no place to which we can descend that God cannot reach, as long as we want him there. Haven't we every reason to give God thanks and strive to become worthy of him?